So with each of those links checked, we can keep moving on with the checklist. So then we have all links on the page linked correctly, which is basically what I've done already. So specifically, these are the CTA sections. These aren't CTAs, but they're still links that we need to check. So when you're going through each of the pages that you've got to check and complete off, it pays just to check every single link and just mark in the checklist them individually when you've done CTAs, as well as if you've done regular links like these. They're not really different. You're just making sure that links go through to the pages that they should. So that's pretty straightforward. You've also got just the buttons of the Revolution slider here to check as well. So it's good to check those things. All external links open in new tabs. That's pretty straightforward as well. If I look in the home page, there might be a link to Facebook, and we've got Instagram there as well. So Facebook's open a new tab, that's great. And then there's Instagram, and that opens in a new tab too, so that's fine. Really straightforward thing to check off. So then you've got no page content is wider than 100%. I actually think that if we go through, we might see an example of this, but in either case, I'll just say that you've got plenty of space left and right on a desktop size screen. Even on mobile, there should be quite a bit of space as well, so that nothing is, you can't sort of tell that something's been cut off because it's going too far to the right or the left and we don't see it, or going off the bottom or the top of the page. So generally it's okay, but there is an issue. I would have liked one of the developers to look into the issue around, I think we're at 630 pixels down to about, yeah, just over 600. You can see how the word project, like I can't, or in that case the and, if I go back one though. So yes, some of the words are being cut off there, and I just really like them to make sure, and here too we're getting images kind of cut off. So whilst this is happening at a very specific screen resolution, it's still a blind spot of about sort of 30 pixels, which we want changed up. So as I've already said before, I'd be leaving this section blank and inserting a note, just like we did above here, to make a note of make a note that we've actually found a certain resolution on this specific page where the resolution is actually going off the end of the screens, and that's not okay. And we've had to resize the screen to actually find that. So just remember, it's not all of these areas. Most of the links generally apply to any resolution that won't matter, but you're going through all the resolutions that you can to find any of these issues, not just one resolution. Header navigation is sticky, is pretty straightforward, which is what we covered before. If I scroll up or down on a desktop, that's where we actually see it. But again, I'd look in and make a note, probably leave it blank and make a note of that. That mobile resolution is also an issue. You should actually also try and review these websites on your phone as well. You should have a phone with you that's got Chrome or Safari or any other page browser, won't really matter. You just need to log into the page generally, because there'll still be a staging site that you would need to log into. But once you've logged into it, actually have a look on your mobile phone and don't just rely on your desktop screen for that confirmation. And then finally, a screenshot of client's page is attached. So we actually want to get a screenshot of this website, because we often have the problem when we're doing later development. The CRRs and the client and the web devs may not be sure of something that's changed and what it originally looked like. So for example, if we maybe lost this icon, like pictures in particular are pretty difficult, we can certainly replace it with another icon, but we might not be sure of exactly what it looked like. We know it has to match this design template, but we might not be sure of what it looked like specifically to bring it back. Or it could be, it could be text, it could be the layout of a certain button, it really could be anything. So it's important that we're getting screenshots now as well, which is something new that we started doing. I recommend using the extension on Chrome, which is Go Full Page. And as soon as I click that, you can see that it starts generating a preview of the image. and then downloading it as a PNG will be fine. So I've downloaded it, and then if you can attach it to that area as well, that'd be great. So you can upload things to your Google Drive, for example, and make a link to it, just making sure that you're sharing it with your supervisor so that they will be able to access it as well. But yeah, you're going to make sure that you get a full screen screenshot on desktop, tablet, and mobile sizes. Because the content will shift around depending on the resolution as well. So just make sure that you're picking up those screenshots of each of the pages. So what I've just done there for the home page, you're now going to do for every other page on the website that you can see in the nav. If you see any pages as you're going through that are like, one of the easiest steps to do is just go through to pages and also posts as well. You can review one post because they often just follow a template as well. So just make sure that you're looking over at least one of the posts that here. They're all just dummies anyway. But yeah, just making sure that at least one of them's been reviewed and it has meets all the same criteria in terms of layout that we wanted from this checkout. But yeah, if you go back to pages, you'll find that basically most of the time that you're reviewing a website, this is the easiest way to see all the pages at once. It may be the case though that it's pretty rare, but in some cases clients don't link a page within the navigation, but it's still a live page. A classic example is this is a thank you page for the contact form. If you're filling out a form and it redirects to a thank you page, that's the area where the client may write something specific that they don't want the general public to find. And the page is probably no indexed as well, so it doesn't appear on Google. But it's still a page that's actually displayed to the user at the end of it. So we have to make sure that the layout and all the content on that page has been properly optimized to be viewed by people, just following the same principles that's in this area. So all I'm trying to say is don't rely on the pages section to be a guide for all the pages that need to be reviewing. Have a look at the navigation, go through everything in the nav, and then you can come back here, and if you see something that's not been used, that's where I would sort of flag it with this CRR and just say to them, hey, I found a page called so-and-so, it's at this URL, share the URL with them so they can see it. And then they might explain if that page is just being no longer used and can be deleted, or if it's got to be drafted and it might be used again later, but we're not going to delete it now, or if it's a live page and actually needs to be reviewed with the rest of them. So there's 3 different scenarios when you find a page that's not in the nav but is live on the back end. And so yeah, you've got 3 situations you've got to account for, but that's fine. So that covers that section on pages that need reviewing. Then we reach Yoast. So the Yoast requirements, of course, mean that you'll need to activate Yoast on the back end. As you can see, these are all, I'll untick those for now. But yeah, you would have updated these before, but you can activate Yoast. So just Yoast by itself, you shouldn't really need to activate any of the other plugins at this stage. So yeah, once you've made sure that Yoast is activated, you can come back to the home page because that's where you're going to do a lot of the setup that you need to complete. So one of the things I do beforehand is I know that one of the steps here, I'll actually show it to you. Homepage title, homepage meta description. So the title is pretty straightforward. It's going to be home-client XYZ, and Yoast generally will do that for you already. So you're just making sure that once you've switched Yoast on, it's actually optimized the homepage already with that page title, so that's fine. The meta description has to come somewhere from the page, so it's actually content that needs to be written generally on the home page or the about page, or the about us page specifically. There'll be content that we can use as a meta description. Yoast is very good at guiding you on how much text to use. I think it's around 150 words. It's not really very much, and you can easily put too much in there, but generally I'd say go to the homepage of the About Us page, wherever the client is sort of talking about themselves, their services and their professionalism, and how, just generally text that makes them look good, and mentions their name specifically. Highlight some of this text. In this case, I'm calling for the first sentence of that paragraph, and go back to the edit, the back end of the homepage, which is just done through editing the page, and scroll down until you find Yoast. So as you would have seen with a lot of SEO pages, like SEO batches that have been built out and hopefully you're kind of familiar with, as I said, you can see that the title page separator and site title have made the title of the homepage automatically, so that's great. The slug we can leave blank as well. It's saying that's a good size, so that's fine. And then the meta description, which has already been pasted in here, but I believe it's the same text that I highlighted before, and it's just the right size. We want to make sure that basically this is enough text till it goes green. If I do Control X, as you can see, it's dropped down to being orange, so it's really asking for a bit more text, and that's the right kind of size. So if you can, if it's not enough, maybe just try highlighting a little bit more, but still make sure that the sentence makes sense. We don't want to end a sentence halfway through, obviously. And once again, if it's too much, just cut a little bit down. So if this was too much, I would probably delete Timberfloor Maintenance is family owned and operated family. You could probably get rid of flooring and just say family owned and operated company specializing in the installation and maintenance of timber flooring. You could just say specializing in timber flooring as well, and that will cut a lot out. So you may have to have a little bit of a think of what a nice, fluid, professional sounding sentence should look like. But yeah, definitely use the guide at the bottom of the Yoast tool there to figure out how much text you need to include. So that covers that area. So adding the Open Graph image is probably the most complicated step in terms of completing a info checklist, but I'm going to show you how to do that now. So one of the first steps that you need to do is to jump on the back end and find the media library. And once you've opened up the media library, you'll be looking for the logo of the client. And specifically, you want the largest logo because it will have a really nice, sharp resolution to it. So if I click that one, that's really tiny. That's a lot bigger. 1024 is pretty big. That would probably do. So copy the URL to your clipboard, open up a new tab, paste it in, and then be downloading it. That'll be fine. So then you want to open up either Photoshop or Photopea. I've got Photopea because it's a free tool that you just need an internet browser to access. If you're a little bit familiar with Photoshop, you'll probably find this step pretty easy, but in either case, yeah, just follow these steps. If you have got Photoshop as well, though, you can use it. So you'll need to jump onto the NAS and get the Open Graph tool, which is done through FileStation, and then I've got to click onto production. This may take a while to load. While it does load, I can also show you that it used to be written up in this step here. So it's under NAS Production Web Dev, and you'll be able to find a copy of it. But yeah, it would just take a while to load. If I've got actually a copy here on my computer, where's that in the documents? Here we go. So this is basically a copy of what it will look like. So it's always got Southside road lines as an example. You can see that there's the whole canvas, and then there's these blue lines, and we want to make sure that the logo we have of the client is fitting into these blue lines as a guide. So remember that we want to hide that layer. If I save or export this with that layer hidden, generally it won't be accessible and it'll be hidden from view. So you just want to make sure that those kind of areas are covered. And then I can come back to my downloads, which is where the icon is, and I can drop this in. Okay, so as you can see, it's white text and a white background, which is going to be an issue. You can also, to save yourself time, you can just see if the client has left you any resources of a logo where it's black, this would do. I would certainly always not just use that as it is, because that's not going to be visible, and it's definitely straying quite a long way beyond those blue lines. So as you can see, I can resize it down. That's no issue, because we're not making things pixelated if we resize them downwards. We're definitely going to have issues though if you've got a small logo and you're trying to make it large to fit in that area. So yeah, it's just worth being really conscious of that. If I did have a white logo though, and I haven't got a black and white version to work with, you can use the paint bucket tool here. And once you click on colors, if you make yours roughly just a bit of a darker gray, put that in, that could work as well as a logo. I don't want to use black if I can help it, but using a darker gray like that allows most of the colors to pop. But in my specific case, I have also found a logo that I can work with from the client that's black and white. And generally, the clients already had this issue before. They often make different versions of their logo that work for different situations. And certainly, this is a case where I'll just drop this one in. Is that the right one? Hide that. There it is. So then I can just save this. I'll need to save it in two formats. I'll need a PSD. I'm just going to save as PSD. And then I may as well rename it here so it's already correct. It's going to be the client's name of the image. So Yoast Open Graph and Timber Flooring. PSD, that's great. So I'll save that. And now I can also say export it as a PNG. So the reason we need two is that one is going to be stored on NAS and the other one is actually going to be used in the website as an open graph. Open graph means that the image that we're building and that you're uploading to a certain area is going to be used in social media context. Specifically, we're going to upload an image that's going to be used for Facebook, and that's really the only one that we focus here on Marketing Suite. So as I scroll up, you've got Yoast, which is now going to be on, and then we've got social, which is the area we want to go to. So click on social, and now we can click on Facebook under this area, and Open Graph is already enabled. Yeah, we've already completed this website, so that's already up, but you'll just be uploading it into that section. So when it's not there, it just says upload. You click on it, and then yeah, save your changes once you've uploaded the image. Now, when it comes to the NAS, you're going to come back here. We always keep the Photoshop file, so that's PSD. We keep that copy here at Marketing Suite as well. So if there's any issues with the website, we have another copy ready to use to upload it as a open graph as well. So that's going to be also here in production. We're going to find the client's folder. If the client's folder isn't here, then you can just make one. There's no issue with that. But either way, we need to make sure that there is a folder here with the client's name, and we're going to make sure that the open graph is in there. So I'm going to scroll down until I find Timber. Probably help not take such a lot. There we go. Here it is, Timber Flooring Unlimited. And yeah, just straight into that folder is fine. That's where we put it. Yeah, and then you're moving on to the next step. So just should be able to mark that with a tick, no problem. Now, when it comes to disable media crawling, generally with an info site, there's no issue with this. So that can be completed by just going to search appearance, media, and then all of these are switched off. So what this is doing is making sure that images are not indexed independently of the page that they're on. So if you do that, then you end up doubling up with a lot of different images, having their whole URL, even though they're .img or whatever format, it could be a PNG or JPEG or something like that. They end up getting indexed as well. We don't really want them to be independent of the actual page that they appeared on. So disabling that can often really help the SEO performance of the page. And so yeah, media crawling is that's how you disable it. So that's all the Yoast areas. Yoast will be used in just a few more areas, I think, but that's the main area that you've got to check off. So then you have the additional extras. So when it comes to the social media feeds, you just make sure that obviously they're working and they're all presenting correctly. We already know that this client doesn't have one, so if you don't have one, you can just tick and move on to the next one. Maybe leave a note just saying that Facebook feed not in use or something along those lines. But yeah, you're just making sure that you've got it's presenting with 3 different stories in the middle, and then make sure that they stack on mobile as well. So they should display correctly, and they should link to all their correct stories on Facebook. So if you just check that a few of those links come through, then that should be fine to work through. Now the map on the contact page, if you scroll up to one of the easiest ways to check it out. I mean, it'll be an aspect of the front end anyway, so we really want to get in the front end. And there where it is. So it's full screen and it resizes dynamically where we want, and that's good. And then we can zoom in and zoom out. And you want to check that the address is correct. In this case, we actually have the client didn't want their specific location identified, and that's fine. They've just got all of Brisbane. And you'll probably find that in some cases the client has also, if they want to refuse their address, that's fine. They may not, as I said, they may work online, so their location isn't relevant, but sometimes they will have their actual street address. And that shouldn't be super zoomed in if it's their actual street address. It probably shouldn't be this far out either. It should be the kind of height that you can just get a sense of where it is if you're familiar with that kind of suburb. Like you can see a few roads and things. So just make sure it's sensibly zoomed out to location that's got plenty of context for the map there. But yeah, in terms of layout, it is generally in this spot. Sometimes it's to the left and you've got the contact form on the right, but it doesn't matter. As long as it's there, you're going to check that it has the correct functionality. So the Revolution slider buttons, I kind of already checked before, which is, as I said, you'll get this momentum when you're reviewing pages to know what you've got to look for and go through each of the sections to save yourself time. But as you saw me do before, I was resizing this to make sure that on all these different sizes that the buttons are the same style and they function correctly, and all the images make sense and they display correctly as well. So that would be a big tick for this section. That's fine. You may also not always see the navigation buttons here at the bottom, and that's fine as well. I'd at least expect there to always be the arrows on desktop screens though, and sometimes the arrows will disappear on mobile because they get in the way of the text, and you might just the client might want there only to be dots to appear for the mobile, and that's fine as well. But you just make sure the Revolution slide has been checked off. The social media links, which you saw me do before, they open to the correct links, and they also open in an external link, so that's fine, which is the next step, opening in a new tab. So you can knock 2 birds off there with one stone. And then you have the menu links included. How do menu links working? Yep. So that can include any anchor text that you've got written like as an actual A tag in the middle of a sentence. Just making sure that you're checking all links across the page. And sometimes these look more like a button, or functionally they're actually added with a different kind of plugin than the actual links are in WordPress conventionally. So yeah, once again, checking links in the menu, that the links in the menu are working, that's pretty straightforward. correct contact information is in the contact page. So this isn't just making sure that the information is sort of displaying correctly on the contact page, which you should be checking that, but also that the if you click on these events, that they actually trigger the right hyperlink. So, for example, sometimes the developers may forget to add the hyperlinks that need to actually be included in here. So they don't have like a call event, and I can actually see that that's triggering fine. So you just make sure that that's also calling the right number. So when it appears at the bottom left of your screen, if you're using Google Chrome, you actually see that the number is correct. And yeah, that we have the correct email address there on the contact page. That's fine. Correct. Footer. So again, checking the footer, that's fine as well. Is it going to go through to Simon? They are correct. And I have had instances where these mail to events, both they mail us, but they're emailing different people. So that if they're emailing different people, you can just flag it up in the notes section, but I would actually try and just ask that's a very easy thing to fix. So try and ask the CRR who the correct email address is to contact, and making sure that yeah, that their email address is being added to those areas. And yep, the phone numbers are appearing correct there. One issue that I would flag immediately with this site is that the Marketing Suite logo actually jumped down on a second line, which is not really ideal. So that's something that should be fixed as well, which once again, you know the process for this is just leaving that unticked and running your comment in the notes section, because we actually have a notes section there, so that's fine. Correct contact info in the CTAs. Again, it's all about reading the actual text that's displaying as well as checking the hyperlink. So it's just doing each of those for the buttons that you see on the homepage, and yeah, and just other parts of the website. But yeah, you should be really checking that as you check the whole page before. So that's fine. Do not delete these plugins. So all the other plugins on the website that aren't really required should be deleted, but these ones should stay, and also any plugins outlined in the original proposal document should be left there as well. So if I go to plugin, I should be able to find an example. So SendGrid is just one of the plugins that we leave. That's important for sending contact information from the contact forms through the website. So that actually should stay there. If you find any, I want to leave Flowflow here because as you saw, the social media feed that was on the homepage, that was actually hidden and asked not to be deleted. So they may want to introduce a social media feed later on, and they'll need Flowflow. So this is a special case where we've actually left that as well for the client to complete their Facebook feed sort of display later on. But yeah, as you're looking through, you want to make sure that if you see any plugins that aren't activated and aren't on this list, they should probably be deleted. You can check with the CRR if you're not particularly sure and you don't want to make a mistake of deleting something that's required. But as I said, if you've seen it if you haven't seen it on this list and you haven't seen the proposal document, it's probably best to delete it as well. So the same goes for forms and pages as well. So as we're looking through, I think we've got Ninja Forms as well as Caldera Forms. So this website's a little bit of an older one, as we don't really use Caldera anymore. But I can certainly jump onto both and show you what I'm looking for. So there's just the one contact form, and that's fine. If I saw another contact form or any other kind of form that might have said like contact form -2 or something else, and it's not on the front end at all and I can't find it, I'd be deleting it if it's definitely not used on any other pages across the website. We only want to make sure that we're deleting contact forms that aren't in use on a page because yeah, they're just not really required and taking up space, so we're going to delete them. And as I said, the same goes for the pages as well. I've already talked a little bit about the pages in terms of, yeah, just being on top of which ones you have to review and which ones you don't. But as I said before, most of the pages that you've got to pay attention to are the ones that are actually listed in the navigation somewhere. So if you've got one of those cases where it's not a page that's like sort of says like a thank you page or something else that has good reason to be on the website, it's just hidden. If it's drafted and no indexed, or if the page is filled with a lot of dummy content, that's probably a case where you can safely delete it. But definitely making sure that you're flagging the page with your CRR. If you're suspicious of a page and it's not obviously in the navigation, that's just where it pays to be sure before you go ahead and delete it. But if the CRR says you're okay to delete the page, then you can go ahead and do that. So now we've actually reached the area where we're looking at a lot of the information in the footer of the page. There are just a few requirements here that we're going to make sure are correct, specifically when it's coming down to the Marketing Suite logo. So what we'll be looking for is to make sure that we've got the mail to event. So that's really easy to check. As soon as I hover the mouse over that, I can see mail to info@marketingsuite.com.au in the bottom left. So that'd be a very quick tick that area has been covered. If it's not, you need to go through the process of trying to find out where the page, where the website's footer content is made, and then changing it. If you're using an Elementor site, that's often built in the theme builder. I'm trying to bring up this example so we can actually see. Just take a moment. So when you hover your mouse over Elementor, you can see all these different areas, and then there's templates. That's actually the one I want, where you see theme builder. So when I click on theme builder, this is where I should see all the content that's actually built in the footer, and there's the site footer. So then you can just click on it, click on it, edit again, and then after a few moments that'll actually load. In the case that we had here with bakery, I'm going to leave that now. Close that. I believe they'll actually be built in the back end of the page under appearance, and then should be either widgets or menus. Let's check out menus. So if you're using Elementor, just jumping back here, yeah, you can see that this has actually got two different logos, depending, so one will become hidden on desktop if you go down to a different resolution. Yeah, so see how they swap over? Now it's a different size icon as the logo, so that's fine. Like, that has a very clear reason for being there. If I take it back to desktop though, it's very easy to edit this section, which has all the content there. The alt tag actually needs to be added, and there should be no issue with that. So Marketing Suite will go there. But yeah, as you can see, it's got the image. Yeah, the mail to event actually hasn't been added there, so that's where you would add it on Elementor when you're adding it. So it's just an alt tag with mail to as the address of the event. And then so when I'm coming back here to WP Bakery, the footer, yep, so unfortunately it's not actually added here through that, so it could be added through as a widget. So just jump over to widgets. There can be a little bit of diving through different areas in order to find the content that you're trying to edit. So yeah, unfortunately it takes a bit of time, but it's a good chance to sort of show you what kind of things you're working on. I believe it'll be here. There it is, awesome. Text. So as you can see, so this one's using JavaScript, and that's fine. It's got the document.write new date script in there, which actually displays it. And then here's what I'm talking about. You've got the anchor tag right before the image with the mail to event in there. And then also the alt tag, which will just come through in a sec. So if I jump back, so yep, it has the mail to event in there with the A tag. It has marketing suite as the alt tag, which you saw me change on the Elementor site. So that's what we're looking for there. And yeah, those basically cover the areas. So yeah, just make sure you're adding the alt tag to the marketing suite logo. So it just says marketing suite when we hover over it. Then you also have the make sure the actual directory, so the navigation, if you will, has all this most of the same, if not all of the same links as the top. So about us, our team, there's the 3 services. So that's all those 3, so that's fine. Projects and contact us. So very straightforward, just make sure it matches it. Sometimes you'll find that the client has like a mega menu used on the website, which has a huge number of links to it. So the footer in some of those cases won't necessarily actually reflect that. It will just have some of the more kind of main links to it. If it's only the ones at the top, then that's fine. You'll be able to see for yourself if there's room for all those links to be displayed, and generally we just display the ones that make sense. So as long as it's generally matching the same outline, the main kind of lists of links that are there, you don't need to include heaps and heaps of links at the top. If there's way too many to fit into the footer, that's fine. So yeah, another one that's a little bit more complicated, but still pretty easy to show you, is coming back to the back end and then going through to the settings. So I believe it's under settings, and then Astra. Appearance Astra options. So under appearance, I remember this client is using Bridge. So with the newer websites that we'll be building in Elementor, it's just for clients that are using the Astra theme. We'll be able to see that under appearance they have, here we go, Astra options. So if I click Astra options here, we just want to make sure that there's no CSS file generation. So in the section here, as you can see, it says enable file generation. That means it hasn't been activated, which is good. So you're just making sure that that hasn't been activated. If you're working with a client that uses an older theme, Bridge is from a couple of years ago now, and we're not using it. You can actually just skip over this step, and that's not relevant. But you're just making sure in that case that you're not using the file generation option that Astra has. I'll just come back quickly as well. There's the JavaScript code. If you need to add it to your website, then you can use it. In some cases, the script can cause the website to crash, not permanently, just when you have added the script, it takes up the entire page. If that is the case for you, generally you'll be using Elementor anyway, so you can actually fix that up with the Elementor time date widget. The way that the time date widget works is that you just add it into a certain spot, and then you can edit the text before and after, so that you can make the copyright a symbol and the copyright text appear before the year, and then all the other content goes after it. Just look up for a tutorial on that if you need any further steps to do it, but I've already created another video where I explain how to do that as well. So, but yeah, there's the script. In most cases that should be able to work as well. So the site favicon, again, is a little bit tricky, like with the Open Graph that we were doing before. There's a little bit of image sort of editing to do there, but it's still pretty straightforward. So I'm going to show you how to do that. So coming back to the website, you've got appearance and customize. You probably would have seen the option to add a site icon through site identity a few times before. Most WordPress themes allow you to manipulate site identity in the same spot, and then site icon is actually the logo that's appearing up here. So again, the process that I used to set this up was going through to the back into the site, into the media library. And then in the media library, once I actually found an image that was actually, I found the logo symbol here just by itself. There it was. I didn't have to manipulate that. It was just there ready to use. I copied the URL here, pasted it, downloaded it, and just put it into, oh, it was already 2256. It was already square, so I probably actually just used it straight from the website because it was reasonably good resolution and it was very easy to add to that section just because you go change image and then just look for it in the media library here. If it's not square, please use Photopea to resize it to make sure that it is square. And naturally, if you need to sort of edit this image so you can crop it out and then put it in, then you're open to do that. But yeah, the site favicon is yeah, basically just something we deal with at the end because we have all the assets that we need from the client by the end of the build. We don't have a lot of assets from the client when we're still building the website, so we do normally leave that step until the end, so that's pretty easy to set up. Again, this is coming back to an area that we've already covered a little bit, but it's good to make sure they're all on the same page. It says that if any pages are not in the nav, then they're set to draft no index, and that may you're just checking with the CRR if you do find any pages that aren't in the navigation, because as I said, a thank you page, which might the client might redirect to from another app that they've got, or a page or a contact form. It may link to there just to be able to say thank you directly to them on a page, but they don't want everybody seeing it on the website. That doesn't want to be drafted. Definitely be no indexed, but in those cases, you probably wouldn't want to draft that kind of page. But it's just about being on top of what pages the client has and what their purpose is, and making sure they're set up in the right ways. And then the last step is just deleting the international developers from the page once it's built. If everything's been going well so far, then they don't really need access to it anymore. Everything should be good. And if they do need to make any edits, then we would probably just add their accounts again into the users section so that they'll have logins to be able to get in and do their work. But they're very easy to create, so there's no issue with just deleting the international developers specifically. I'd still leave yourself, your supervisors, the head of the department, and the CRRs, and anyone that's got that kind of internal, any kind of internal person of the company that has a relevance to that project. Yeah, just make sure that you're leaving their logins in there, so that's fine. So with the forms there, generally there's all the steps here are pretty straightforward, but I can still take you through them. Most of the times you'll find that you've got a Ninja Forms on your website. Sometimes you may find something different, like Gravity Forms or Caldera Forms or Contact Form 7, but a lot of the principles here remain the same. So you'll make sure that the style of the submit button is in the same fashion as all the other buttons on the front end of the website. So that I would want a submit button for the contact form, so it would be yellow with a hover effect. And yeah. So at least being yellow with a black text, that's pretty much fine. But yeah, this is about being really conscious of that button layout as you're building it out. Coming back to it, the email name. So when it says email, it's referring to the actual administrator email that comes through. So you want to make sure that it's sending through. Well, it's got a sensible name so that we know if we need to edit it, that we can come back to it pretty easily, and that its destination is going to the correct user, which, as we saw before, if you're ever unsure of it, generally if there's an email button here, then I would just use that address as well. So yeah, you can hunt down an email address if you're not exactly sure, or you can ask a CRR as well. That's probably a good step as well. The reply to, so that's in terms of when the email is sent through to the actual user, that it's coming up as no reply. So no reply is kind of generally the area we default to. If you can adjust, I say this because Ninja Forms is different. If you are able to change the reply to for the administrator email, it's best to make it the actual user's email address. So if I put in mine, that's Lachlan at Marketing Suite. Yeah, it'd be good to use the dynamic email field, so you can actually put that in. So when the client hits reply, they are actually straight away replying to the user that sent in that email. But if the user is clicking reply, then it's going to go to a no reply email address. So that's the safe one. It just keeps contact with between the client and the user through the website, and not too much back and forth through email, except if the client wants to use it, which is why the admin email, if you can make it the reply to, then yeah, you give them the user's email address. Subject, we always try to have that email subject as new contact for a form submission. And then the message is a fields table. There might be a few variations with things like Gravity Forms, and I think Caldera is relatively similar, but you want to use any type of dynamic tag, which is actually going to send all the information that's been received from the contact form. So fields table in this case is just grabbing every single field that was actually interacted with and sending that information through to the administrator, so they can actually see that information as it comes across, which is good. Then you have the advanced settings. So in this case, once again, it's just referring to Caldera. So you've got the, it's just referring to Ninja Forms, because you're able to set the no reply at the client's user address just for the metadata of the email address. So when you're referred to in the email as an actual user, as an actual contact, the user doesn't see that information. It just comes across as no reply. So that's easy to set up through Ninja Forms anyway. If you're working with a plugin, a contact form plugin that doesn't allow that, then you can skip that step. So that's all the same steps for the autoresponder. So as you've probably got the impression already, the autoresponder doesn't share quite as much information as the administrator email will do. So we want to always try and call it autoresponder, no matter if you're on Ninja Forms or Caldera or whatever. Just try and call it autoresponder. Make sure that the name that is appearing as the destination is the actual field of the user's email address. So it's sending through to them with their name. So it will say, hey, their name, going to their email address. And then the actual subject should be thanks for contacting us. The email message should then basically read something like, hi, the person's name, thank you for contacting us, someone from our team will be in touch with you soon, kind regards, and then the client's name. Don't leave it as XYZ client. Then you've got the advanced settings, which is again something that's mostly relevant to Ninja Forms, which is where you'll have the no reply as XYZ. If I actually jump back on this back end, it might help to show you as well. So as you saw, that was under Ninja Forms and Dashboard. Open this up. So each of these areas has the advanced section down the bottom. So it's actually not, don't believe we're in dev mode. So you can also just pay to make sure that you got dev mode on in Ninja Forms under settings, and they'll be able to see these kind of settings. Here we go. Here we go. Yes, so as these settings have been turned on, this is the area where you add it. So this is where you put the client's name, and no reply at the client's URL, whatever it is, .com.au. But we can still see the fields table in there. It should actually just be fields table, it's fine. So yeah, that's the advanced sections that we're talking about there. So if I jump back here, adding a Kismet, that's pretty straightforward. So if I want to add a Kismet, there it is. So it's just the plus button down the bottom right hand corner, and then you add it like that. And then you've also just want to make sure the name's fine as it is, but in terms of these fields, this is where we just want to give it the name. So we're looking for any spammy names, and then the email field that it is. So that adds a Kismet to the website. And yeah, hitting publish to save as you go through. So that takes care of the Kismet side of things. And then you're testing both forms. And when I say both, that's when you send a single message on the contact form, that'll trigger an admin email and an autoresponder that goes to the client. So when you should set up firstly your name instead of the client's name in the admin email, and then send it off as a test. And then yeah, in your inbox, you should be able to see that you should be able to see 2 emails that come through, one for you as the administrator, and then the other one for you as the person testing it. Yeah, both come through to your email address. And once the test is successful, as I said, you should be deleting your email address from that to field and putting in the client's email address. Yeah, to make sure that the client is receiving all emails as the administrator, but then each user is still getting their test come through. So that completes part 2.